first question is, Armin and Susanna, would either of you be open to talking to Dr. Deborah So or transsexual man Buck Angel regarding trans issues? I would love to talk to Buck Angel. He is an absolute icon. For those who don't know, Buck Angel is the first trans male adult film star and an absolute icon. Um, Although I would be personally more interested in talking to him about more sex positivity and stuff. When it comes to Dr. Deborah So, I'm somewhat familiar with her work. I haven't read her books, but honestly, her opinions on the transgender community are extremely controversial, and given I feel like that could pose a threat to our channel. Even though there are other like big channels that have her on and stuff, like we don't have the same privilege of being treated the same way or having connections that could help rectify that situation. In general, I think I always think it's worthwhile to engage with people. But yeah, Armin, what do you think?
I honestly think like the trans issue is so simple, and a lot of people use when it comes to social stuff, the trans issue is a very simple thing. But the complications of the science behind it is used by a lot of people to try to make it seem like the social stuff around it is more complicated than it needs to be. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think like a lot of people, when it comes to science of anything that has to do with either biology or identity or social stuff, it gets very complicated, but I think the complications of that is used by bigots to make it seem like this is not a straightforward thing that we're dealing with. Okay, because this is very straightforward. Okay, like it doesn't, for scientific reasons or social discussions, it's interesting to dab into that. But honestly, like, what is this? Like, what I want, like, if people are interested in talking about that, I first want to know, like, what are they trying to get at? Like, what is the question that they're trying to answer before, like, we go into the science and before we go into the social issues around it? I want to like know what is the question that you're trying to answer, because a lot of times it comes down to something very simple. Like, a lot of times people are like trying to deny the existence of certain people, or trying to find ways to be discriminatory to a group of people, or trying to deny a certain group of people their rights. And if we identify that that's actually what is trying to be done here, like the answer to that is actually a lot more simple than all the science that we're discussing here. Like those are being used as excuses, right? Because when it comes down to the trans people themselves, if the question is like, hey, should we use certain pronouns that makes these people feel more comfortable, yeah, well, like, what is the cost to you? Like, I mean, it shouldn't become a law, but it should be very easy to understand that if you're refusing to use certain pronouns just because you don't understand like how it might help them, or just because you're so easily confused. I don't know how you could be so confused by something so simple. Like, these people are under so much social pressure, they're having identity issues, and you could help by just referring to them the way they want to be referred to, and that helps them a lot. And you're like, oh no, and you think like I don't know, this is not scientific. Like, what are you talking about? This has nothing to do with, like, it's a simple misunderstanding between what is gender and what is sex, is something that you don't need a scientist to come and explain that to you. This is something so simple. Okay, we're talking about people's identity. This has nothing to do, like, people think like, oh, if somebody who is biologically a male, if you refer to them as a woman, you're being unscientific. Like, no, you're just an idiot. These are two separate things. Okay, we're talking about people's personal identities. We're not referring to their biological sex. Yes, these things are related, but they're not always the same thing. For some people, they're not the same thing. For some people, they feel more comfortable if they refer to as a woman. Okay, like, well, no, the word woman refers to biological female. Like, no, it doesn't. And even if it did, it doesn't have to. Words can change. You could change the definitions of the word. If it makes an entire group of people feel more accepted in society, you could change the definitions of the word to something that is more useful to society. These are simple things. This is not you being scientific. This is you just being an asshole. Okay, this is like, it's a very easy change in use of language, and in a very easy understanding of some people's identity doesn't match to, their whatever most people like certain people's biological sex, okay, doesn't match with what most people with an identity that the society has mostly attributed to that biological sex. Some people don't feel like that. Okay, then we refer to them with the identity, the gender identity that they're more comfortable with. This has no cost to you. This has no cost to you, and it makes them help them live lives that they feel is more comfortable. It helps them be true to their identity. So why not? Why the fuck not? Anyways,
well, Armin, I don't think that's actually the position of either of these two individuals.
I didn't say I did. I was sorry. This was me using the question as an opportunity to go on a rant. I wasn't accusing Anne. I know for a fact that Anne doesn't feel like that. Okay.
No, not even Anne. Or I'm talking about Deborah Soh or Buck Angel. I find Buck Angel very interesting. Because
I wasn't. Okay, no. Let me clarify, because I think this is my fault for misunderstanding. I wasn't suggesting that these people maybe are like transphobic or anything like that. Okay, but I'm suggesting that a lot of people that are interested in these topics, okay, is because they, I think let's just do the 80-20. Okay. There are certain things that are so simple about this topic, and the easiest thing is like, okay, these people prefer to be referred to as this way, and they feel ostracized, demonized, isolated as part of society. And if we just use this language, and if we're nice to them, and if we accept their identity, these people it would be easier to come out of a living hell that they're living in, and they be accepted as part of a society, and it will reduce their suicide rates and reduce their anxiety and all of that. That's the 80% of the stuff that we need to care about. I mean, I understand a lot of people are interested in the science of it because of just geeks, and they're interested in science, and that's a good thing. Okay, so for example, I know like maybe Anne is interested in that, and I think like people like, even if we disagree with like Deborah Soh's conclusions, or like if other scientists disagree with Deborah Soh's, that's okay. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, these people could like do the science that they want to do, and I'm not saying if they have different conclusions that they're necessarily transphobic or not. Like, I don't know, right? But I'm just saying, I wasn't passing a judgment on maybe Deborah Soh or Buck Angel. I'm just saying a lot of people that are interested in this stuff might not be just because they're scientifically curious. It's because they are needlessly making something that is so simple complicated. I think like, get the simple stuff out of the way, understand that this is actually what we need to do and how we need to act. Not is actually pretty simple. All right, if you don't want to be an asshole, everything else on that is just like it doesn't, what the science is behind being trans doesn't affect this. You know what I mean? Doesn't affect how you should be to be able to be helpful human beings, and be accepting and be tolerant, okay, and make people feel more comfortable in their own skin. Okay, the science of it is interesting, but I just want to make sure that people don't use it as an excuse to just be a bigot to trans people. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think Buck Angel is a really interesting figure in the transgender community. Like, I don't always agree with all of his positions, but he makes an effort to host a lot of like divergent or minority voices in the transgender community. And so I always find that interesting to get insight into. And for example, he wears t-shirts all the time, proudly proclaiming like proudly biologically female, whereas like sometimes in the trans community, like people don't like things being characterized that way, but he thinks it's very important to acknowledge his biological sex. And so both very interesting figures. Yeah, Armin?
You know what? I can understand. Like, it's true. Like, for example, let's say a trans man, okay, who's biologically a female, okay, but they're a trans man, and they're a real man, because when we use the word man, we're referring to someone's identity in a society. Okay, so that's a real man right there. Okay, but okay, it's they're biologically female. And that's true, okay, because that's when we're talking about biologically female, we're referring to someone's sex, biological sex, not their gender identity. However, I can understand why somebody doesn't want to mention that, even if that's true, okay, because that's something that they have been born with that is unfortunate, right? It would have been more ideal for them, given the identity that they had, if they were born in a male body, okay? So even if that's that's a scientific fact that this is a biological female, mentioning that, I can understand why that would be uncomfortable for you. You know what I mean? This is like you have the inconvenience of being into a body that doesn't match your gender, okay? And I mean, transgender surgery is trying to fix that, and I'm hoping in the future it becomes a lot better. You know, it becomes more and more easier for you people to have to go through that, right? But it's kind of like, I don't know, if I don't want to compare it to something that maybe, like, imagine if you had some other biological reason that I'm not going to refer to because I don't know if this is going to be taken out of context, right? But something inconvenienced biologically about you, which is true, okay? But if I came and tell you hey, Armin, this is true about you, this is true about you, or like something like uncomfortable that is true that I'm born with, or like I'm suffering with biologically, right? Like, yeah, I know it's fucking true, but I don't like. Why are you telling me this? Like, this is like not comfortable. Yeah, that is a part of me that I'm trying to fix, right? And you keep telling me like this is true, this is true, this is true about me. Yeah, I know, but do you see why I rather focus on my gender identity rather than my biological sex? Given that that's the issue that I'm trying to resolve here. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I was just saying, like, Buck Angel has kind of his own ideological differences with broader contemporary transgender narratives, and a lot of it is generational. So he's from an older generation that conceptualizes and envisions these things very differently, and that's why he's become controversial, like, later in life. Right. Hey guys, if you're a fan of Blasphemy and Sexy Callie, like me, then you need to be sure to subscribe to our newsletter, link in the description below. Because if you subscribe, we will send you a free copy of our Blasphemous Art ebook. And let me tell you, it is the tastiest blasphemy that you can find anywhere available today. And we are so generous with our blasphemy that we continue to send you more blasphemy every week. So make sure to subscribe, link in the description below.